It's time to sit back, relax, and listen to Conversations with Joan. Conversations with Joan will inspire, motivate, and empower you. Live your best life now. Listen, learn, think, and decide. And now, here's your host, Joan Herman.
Welcome to Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life, Conversations with Joan. I'm Joan Herman. Thanks for tuning in. Conversations with Joan focuses on topics that are important to your life, from health and wellness to professional development to personal well-being. Changemakers join me to share their insights, tips, and strategies so you can thrive and live your best life now. Thank you for taking time for yourself, and thank you for letting us be a part of your life. Now, let's start talking. Many of us spend time working to identify and solve problems by using our head. But what if there was another approach, a reliable and effective pathway to realizing innermost desires? Today's guest, Steve Sisgold, believes that we should get out of our head and into our body in order to achieve greater wisdom, confidence, and success. Steve's whole body intelligence teaches how to become aware of subtle body sensations and how to interpret their meanings, linking them with thoughts, experiences, and decisions. According to Steve, it's time to stop overthinking and decisions will become easier to make. Steve is a motivational speaker and executive coach. He is the author of the book, Whole Body Intelligence, Get Out of Your Head and Into Your Body to Achieve Greater Wisdom, Confidence, and Success. Welcome, Steve. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, pleasure, Joan. Thank you for having me.
So, Steve, most of us spend a lot of time in our head trying to figure things out. I know I do, way too much time. So you suggest that a body-centered approach can offer tremendous insight into the way we feel, therefore helping us make better decisions. What is whole body intelligence, and why is this so important to use?
Well, so many times we have things that happened in the past, and we might forget them, but they'll pop up, like if we've been hurt in a relationship, we might be holding back from meeting somebody or trusting somebody, but not really, we're not realizing. In our head, we think we're doing fine, but somewhere in our body lives that memory. We forget a lot of things, but what I have found in doing the work I've been doing is that these things still might live in us, and they'll pop up, when something similar comes about, and we'll have possibly a negative or a fear about the outcome. So I just invite people to take a moment, because most of our thoughts are either in the past or in the future, and just kind of take a breath and notice and feel more intelligence, not just what your mind's telling you, but perhaps there's some fear in your belly or some pain in your chest. And what I have found, Joan, is that often people will get in touch with what I call a viral belief, a belief that might be living still in their whole system. A lot of people have heard of emotional intelligence, and yet I'll say to people, well, what do you feel? Not sure. I think I'm sad. I think I'm angry. But as soon as I tell them, what is your body saying? Because I know your fist is tight or you're holding your breath, they'll go, oh, yeah. And they'll get in touch with that feeling or that belief that might be holding them back. So it's another intelligence, if you will, for us. And I'll just end with, when I was in sales, if I leaned forward, and I've noticed my customer leaned back, but when I sat back and relaxed and noticed I wasn't shaking my leg or giving any body signals, I did better. So that's really what started me saying, wow, I think we ignore this intelligence that's right in us, our innate intelligence, and I've been helping people get in touch with that as an extra tool for them to deal with life.
Well, Steve, I find your work fascinating because, as I said, I have spent my entire life being one of those in-the-head people where everything needed to make sense and I needed to think through everything. And more recently, I've learned to listen to my body. And, you could call it intuition, you can call it whole body intelligence. But what I found is the more I tune in, the more signals I get, and the more I'm relying on this for decision making in my life. And I think what I found is your body rarely lies to you. You really know what's going on if you pay attention.
Absolutely. I read yesterday, I don't know, it's funny how things come to you. I was just reading, and a research study said that we have about 70,000 thoughts a day. Wow, think about that. And, often those thoughts, again, can be scary or negative or just fictional. And I just found that, once I would take that breath and tap in and really listen to what was happening for me in the moment, not only would I de-stress, in the moment, which is a lot of the work I do with people, but I would just help people get in touch with something. I've helped a coach get back on the bench. He thought he'd never coach again. I've worked with, musicians, athletes, writers who, maybe got rejected and thought they'd never sell that book again. And those thoughts were just stopping them cold. But once they would really, tap into that other intelligence, they might get in touch with, this has nothing to do with now. This has something to do with something I'm holding in my body. Our body was there from day one. So those traumas, even as early, I'm even certified in prenatal work, even as early as that, things happened and we don't realize that they're in our way or in our, blocking us from having the success or the relationship or, the health that we can have. So for me, it's really helped a lot. And I've been listening to my body a lot more. And it's really helped me, get over people say, oh, you'll never sell a book. And of course, if I froze and I started to feel into that frozen thought, I probably wouldn't have gone to New York and tried to sell my book. Mm-hmm. But, once I breathed through that and realized that, this isn't about the book. It's about deeper things that live inside of me. And I help people breathe and release and kind of, as I say, like release that belief and then start to embody a new belief. It's amazing how the shift occurs. And just their body language alone, I call it your billboard, their body language alone shifts and they get a different result.
Well, I love when you say that life is not meant to be an out-of-body experience, and that makes so much sense because that's how most of us live our life, as though it's two things.
Well, absolutely. Look, let's face it. Do you want to be uncomfortable? I know I don't. Mm-hmm. So the first thing we do is when we feel some fear or anger or sadness or any emotion in our body, our tendency is to get out of it, right? I went to see somebody the other day, it was their dad passed, and they just kept saying, oh, we're just numbing ourselves. We're numbing ourselves. And I understand, of course, the pain. But that's a perfect example of we don't want to feel. I mean, I don't want to feel bad. So the tendency is to numb. But what I've noticed, Joan, is when we actually let the feeling into our body and breathe with it and express it and actually let it, if you will, circulate and release, then something else can happen. So I feel like a lot of us are frozen and numb, even what's happening in the world today. It's who wants to feel it? So mm-hmm. People will definitely, including myself, have a tendency to want to go out, but I've just retrained myself and focused my thoughts, if you will, to not run from what I feel, but to just be aware of it. And it's helped me. I'm a speaker and I coach and I was in sales. And that's really where I discovered it, just noticing that my body language and the inner thoughts I was having was affecting my presentation to the world. And of course, if somebody felt like, oh, he's afraid of me, then who would want to go on a date? I'm in a relationship now 10 years, but it took a lot of work to be able to believe because I got rejected a couple times and it was still in my body, even though my mind wanted something else. But my body was sending a signal. And that's really the message that, your body's speaking all the time to people. So be aware of it. That's an intelligence that we ignore, and it affects the impact we have and the results we have.
Steve, you talk about Blue Zone and Hawaiian cultures and the lifestyles that the people there live. What can we learn from these cultures about living a body-centric versus a mind-centric life?
Oh, I love that question. I did live in Hawaii for 5 years. Joan, the culture is so different when you really get in with the Hawaiians. Number one, their word for ohana is family. The word for family is ohana. You know what that means? That means families who breathe together. Aloha, it means heaven, and lo means earth, and ha means breath. So their whole culture, is based on, breathing and being awake and being aware that, Hawaiian and how they would kiss when they say hello, they would put their cheek next to mine and let me feel their breath. Mm-hmm. So they're more of a body-centered culture, more of a culture that believes in that, where a lot of our culture was, that we weren't allowed to feel. and we were trained to not feel, and I think a lot of us got into that habit. Maybe we expressed, Mommy, I have this story. I was at a hot springs, and I remember, Mommy, I'm really hot. Oh, you're not hot. Oh, no, I am. No, you're not. So what does that teach us? Well, maybe I don't know what I'm feeling. I thought I was hot, And then the mom said, oh, taste this, honey. It's cucumber water, right? I like it, but she said, it tastes like lemonade. So the daughter takes a sip. And she said, no, it doesn't. No, it does. Keep trying. And eventually the little girl said, yeah, Mom, it tastes like lemonade. And I could just see the girl's shoulders hunch. So what does that teach the girl? That's teaching the little girl, I don't know what I feel. Mm-hmm. And I thought it tasted bad, and I thought I was hot, but my mom told me I'm not. So we lose trust in our own instincts and our own innate intelligence. And I've been coaching people to go with that instinct, go with that feeling. If it doesn't feel right, then listen before you just say no.
Steve, so many people today are walking around like ticking time bombs. They're so angry. They're ready to yell at each other or say something nasty to another person. What do you think is happening? Do you think it's a suppression of those feelings, those emotions that were so bottled up, we're ready to explode?
Absolutely. And Joan, I don't know if you've been somehow tuning into my life, but just the other day, I was at the gym. All the towels, they offer towels, they're all alike. And I, everybody lines their little towels up. I grabbed the wrong towel. They're all alike. The guy went crazy. Oh, my towel. I went, whoa, it's okay. I'll get you another one. No. And I realized in that moment, here's a guy who's probably frustrated at work or at home. He's a walking time bomb. He's just waiting for that opportunity to let that out. And that's why I said, release, breathe, move. Get that out of your body. I have like 30-day programs, and they're all about each day, have focused thinking, concentrating, being aware of my posture, being aware of my thoughts. Unfortunately, most of us don't have that opportunity. So it might be road rage or it's something like that. And that's why I call it a walking time bomb, because here's a guy who was at the gym. I apparently was working out. Whatever happened, it didn't release his stress. And boy, he just found the opportunity in my towel, to let it out on me. And of course, I knew this is a time bomb, so I just handed him another towel and got out of there. But I realized that there's quite a bit of that, out on the road and in situations, and we see a lot of it in the news, that someone just didn't get to express or feel or let that emotion out, and perhaps their parents did or said things to them that they weren't allowed to speak. And that what happened is it gets bottled up. And where does that energy go? That's what I tell people. It doesn't go away. It's right in your cells. It's right in your skin. And I see it all the time with people, like I said, in their body language or the fist or they're gritting their teeth. And just that one signal of, take a breath. I notice that you're clamping your jaw as you said you want to earn more money. And they'll find underneath their body's giving them a signal to what that belief or that pattern that might be holding them back. And I've found that it's the quickest way to get things out of the way. And I've helped people, sell books, make that sale, meet that perfect relationship that they were looking for by tuning into where they were holding these negative beliefs. And as you said, the walking time bomb, the anger. And then they have an opportunity to be more aware. It's nothing to be afraid of. You just become awake and aware of what's really happening in my whole body, not just my mind, IQ, not just my emotions, EQ, but my whole BQ. I have a test on my website that helps people to determine how high or low is your BQ. Are you aware that you're shaking your leg when you're making a presentation? Are you aware that you're gritting your jaw when you say, oh, I really like that? Because people see that. And if you're not aware of it, then you're probably going to get a lower result in what you're looking for. And that's a lot of what I'm about.
And so many things that we're dealing with in life, we could make an impact to change them if we just take the time to be mindful, to be in the present, to pay attention to our body and our reactions. And Your work with stress, you have something called the rebooting technique. Can you explain to us exactly how that works?
Absolutely, Joan. Well, like right in this moment, right now, I think it's difficult for people because they're doing so many things at once, looking at their phone while they're doing something else. But I always tell people, what do you do when your computer's down? You know what they say immediately. Oh, we reboot. Why? Well, something's not working, so I turn it off and I start it over. So it's the same thing. If there's any opportunity for me, and before I go into an event, before I got on this radio show today, or any other feelings, I just like to reboot. So the first thing I do is just be aware, turn everything off, and just make that commitment to myself that I'm going to reboot myself right now. And I get comfortable, and I start with breath, and then I start to say out loud things like, I'm noticing my jaw is tight. I'm noticing my shoulders are up to my ears. I'm starting to have an integrative conversation now between my body and my mind. And then I'll go into breathing and notice things like, is it difficult to breathe in? Joan, I find that a lot of times when people have difficulty taking a deep in-breath, they have difficulty receiving. That's how core the breath is. And I'll notice other people will have the opposite. They'll have difficulty on the out-breath, and they're usually people who have difficulty expressing themselves. So it's that kind of awareness. And then I'll take them further into the body in the rebooting technique, and they'll get more aware of things that are happening and different beliefs. So it's about a 7-step, and it just, as we're doing it, we're just taking breaths and noticing right now, what did you become aware of? Oh, didn't realize that I was leaning forward or clutching onto my meetings in an hour, and I was, clutching my body tight, thinking about it. So then you get to relax and rewire it. You get to release that thought and bring in a new thought. So then I'll have people say what they want. I want to have this meeting go successful. Or I want to, have a great time tonight on my first date. I want to have a great meeting when I take my book to the publisher. And then notice again, what did you feel in your body? What emotions came up? And then I'll have people move. Maybe you need to shake it out. Maybe you need to just kind of get up, change your posture, and then continue to breathe and affirm what you want until your body starts to receive it, if you will. For me, Joan, what I notice is when I feel comfortable in my body with what I want to manifest, and I release whatever that is that's been blocking or in the way of it, I find that I'm received differently. I remember when I was in sales, just being aware and rebooting before I walked in, I was aware that my customer, who was AT&T, was distracted. And I could have just gone on with my pitch and been blind to it, but I noticed her discomfort in her body because I was aware of my own. And I said to her, I'm noticing, and it took guts to do that, I'm noticing as I'm speaking, it seems like you're distracted. Am I correct? And she said, wow, you're the first sales rep who's ever stopped his pitch to actually ask me how I'm doing. And then she told me, I've got this issue, I got that issue, and then I helped her with that. She needed a machine here, she needed a machine there. Long story short, that presence and that ability to reboot and be awake and aware in the moment turned out to be 3,000 machines later. It changed my life.
Yeah.
So I just really encourage everybody to reboot, get ready to be your best at whatever you're doing versus walking in and bringing the morning tension or the traffic tension or whatever it is, and you're not even aware, but other people see it, and it affects how you relate and how you're seen.
Steve, in that process, you mentioned the importance of moving. And most of us spend our day sitting. I mean, we sit at a desk or a computer, and then we go home and we sit in front of a television, and we very seldom move. So how important is movement to the way our brain reacts or responds and what we think?
I think it's so important. Joan, I grew up, all we did was we were outside. We were always moving, we're always doing something. And unfortunately today with the computers, the video games, and all those things, too many children I notice are just sitting. And I notice the difference between children who, go to school and then do athletics afterwards or doing, physical things. But they're just more in their body and they're not carrying as much tension. So one of the things that I teach a lot is when your body wants to do something, especially if you're in your own room or if you can go, and I've done this plenty of times in offices, I'll go into a private space, let your body speak. In the therapy kind of work I do in the coaching, the movement really gives us tremendous information that when we're locked up, we're holding our breath, we're locking our body, that we're not getting any information. But if that hand wants to move, let it move. If that fist wants to open or punch the air, let it punch the air, because your body's wanting to express something. If somebody's shaking their leg when they're working with me, I'll go, shake your leg more. Make that bigger. In fact, let that leg speak. And sure enough, some information will come to them. It's amazing, but they'll go, wow, I just wanted to kick that out of my life, and I feel 100% better. Or, wow, I noticed when I started moving, it reminded me of childhood, or it brought me back to a memory. So, again, it's called cellular memory. Everything that's ever happened to us, and this is not just me speaking, it's scientific, it's written up, that things happened and they're still in our cellular memory, which is amazing. There's been work on the belly, how much is held in the belly. They say in the belly has a brain. So in other words, things happen. We hold them in our shoulders, we hold them in our belly, and they're stuck. So we can't get that information. We can't express what that unexpressed feeling or emotion. So I find that movement is the best. Even people coming in here locked up, stressed, scared, once I have them breathe and start walking and moving, all of a sudden they're able to tell what's happening for you. What are you feeling? What is that fear? What is that anger? And they can't get that just sitting and locked up in their brain. So the movement really is a doorway to get better and greater information.
The book is Whole Body Intelligence, Get Out of Your Head and Into Your Body to Achieve Greater Wisdom, Confidence, and Success. If you'd like to get more information about Steve and his work, you can visit wholebodyintelligence.com. Steve, in about 30 seconds or less, what's the takeaway? What would you like to leave our listeners with?
I'd like to leave the listeners with that, everything that you feel and that you're noticing, rather than shut it off or numb it or cut away, take the opportunity to actually let yourself feel that. Accept where you are now. Take a nice deep breath, reboot. Actually be aware that you're more than just a mind. So I think the awareness, that self-evident truth that's inside of you, you can find it right in your body. All you need to do is sit back, breathe, listen, and whatever you feel, rather than shutting it down, let it speak to you. And you'll find that you'll get a lot of information that you need in your life right now to push through that fear or to get that wisdom, that intuitive feeling inside. Your body's brilliant, and it's there for you to use and not to ignore.
Steve, thank you so much for joining us. I, as I said, have been really paying attention to what my body is saying to me, and it's been a game changer. So I hope our listeners will learn more about what you've been saying, and I thank you so much for being here and sharing.
Oh, thank you, Joan. It's been a pleasure. I loved it. Thank you so much.
This is Conversations with Joan. Until next time, thanks for tuning in.